Call now. Is there anyone present who wishes to speak in opposition of this matter?
My name's Teresa Chambers. I live at 505 Meadowlark Lane. I do not want the Zone 3 because I want to keep the green area the way it is. It cuts down on noise, it cuts down on it gives a place for the animals, it cuts down on noise and pollution. You can't just regrow this forested area. Once it's rezoned, no matter what the proposition may be, they can change that and make the whole thing a parking lot. I just don't want to lose that green space. You just don't get it back overnight. So that's for the community to have a tree area, not multiple dwelling with parking lots. That's my piece.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Chambers. Anyone else on second call? Okay, I'll make the third and final call. Anyone present wishing to speak in opposition of this matter? Okay. Now there will be 3 calls for anyone wishing to speak in favor. First call, is there anyone present who wishes to speak in favor of this matter?
Hello, I'm Nancy Hansen, and I live at 1427 Eric Place, but my husband and I are looking to purchase this land from Mr. McAtee, consenting on the rezoning. And once we do that, we would like to build a community for young adults with autism or sensory needs, and those who want to live committed to being in a community and to being neighbors and learning how to be good neighbors together. I do understand the concerns of the water, and of course we would have the exact same concerns and definitely don't want to make any issues worse. We also want to teach our residents how to be good neighbors, and so that would be part of what we're building and part of what we're trying to accomplish. And so I'm just really hopeful that we can move forward with our project, and I think it's going to be such a great thing for our community and for our daughter. So I do have a flyer about We Build, if anybody would like to see that or
We can pass them down.
This idea for a community will allow our children to become adults and to live as independently as possible in their own homes. We're planning to do 11 duplexes and a party barn, and it's really all contained within 1 acre of land, where the whole piece of property is almost 8 acres, and so we will just we'll figure out which would be the best place to put our community as soon as we can. That's all I have. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Nancy. And the floor is still open for first call. I'll make second call for anyone wishing to speak in favor of this matter.
Hi, my name is Kathy Morse, and I live at 106 East Chestnut Street. I am the realtor that has the property listed for Mr. McAtee, but I do want to say that I've waived my commission on all of this, so I'm not making any money, and that's not why I'm in favor of this. I am a transplant from the Columbia, Missouri area, and one thing that has really, really impressed me about Fulton is the way our community stands behind and cares for its own. And I think this is another example and another way that when people come to our community and they're looking to live in Fulton rather than other places, that we can brag on this kind of establishment, that we do care for our own, and that we are willing to go the extra mile to take care of people, whether they be disabled, low poverty level, whatever it is, that we stand behind homeless, veterans, the community, and that's something that really I have seen the people here rally for, and it does really make me proud to be living in Fulton and have lived in Fulton for the last 20 years. I think a community for the disabled in this area would be a much better option because the property is for sale. And we've had other people look, and it is zoned residential, but who's to say someone else won't buy it and clear the entire property and just build a house on it? So we don't know. I think this is a known option and one that we could all be proud of and should get behind. I also think that because of its location and proximity to the senior community in the area, that might be something we could blend a little, and that would be my hope, that maybe with elderly people in the area, they might work with some of the young adults or get to know each other, and this might be a good community endeavor as well. Last of all, I just really would urge you all to do this. I think it's something we could all be proud of, so I'm really hoping that this is something we'll all get behind, trusting and knowing that Nancy and the people who are organizing this will work very hard to be very respectful to those people in the Clevewood subdivision and in our area. Thank you.
Thank you, Kat. All right, third and final call. Is there anyone present who wishes to speak in favor of this matter? No, this guy.
My name is John Braun. I live at 1004 Herring Drive here in Fulton. I've sat on your side for some time and enjoyed every minute of it. I believe that we should move forward with projects like this from the perspective of seeing our city grow. If we say no to a situation like this because of, I understand, water issues, that's a problem. Because we have to take care of the community to grow and watch it grow. And how better to do it than show how supportive we are of a community like this. If you've ever had a family member, I have a family member who's been in a nursing home for over 20 years because there wasn't a community for her to go to like this. And if you've ever had one, you would much more understand it. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to your vote for yes for it to pass. Thank you.
Thank you, John. All righty. Last call.
Good evening. My name's Connie Hale from 2006, and I am a resident of 528 State Road in Martinsburg, Missouri, also known as Shamrock, Missouri in Callaway County. I drove 25 miles to be here tonight to support We Build. I was from 2016 to 2019, I was the manager of the Kingdom Projects Incorporated, also known and doing business as Callaway County Extended Employment at this time. Having been in that position, I am well aware of the shortage of housing for individuals that we have in this community. And I myself have a son with a disability from a motorcycle accident 19 years ago, and he had a head injury. And I would like to know that in the case of my death, that there would be a place for him to live, and he would be supervised in that housing situation. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Connie. Got more people coming up. Yeah, I've got you. I won't forget about you in the back there. I know this
So I
lady.
am Tamara Tatesian, 1630 County Road 252, but I'm also the Executive Director of the Callaway Chamber of Commerce. I've actually seen the We Built project in Clackamas, Oregon, and this is a place that is going to be a great neighbor. The way that it's developed, it gives these people opportunities that are developmentally disabled to live on their own and to make a life for their own and have friends like they've never had before. They have opportunities to have popcorn and movie night, and they socialize every evening by having dinner together. This is not just something that is thrown up and just walked away from. It's something that is put together very nicely and will look beautiful in our community. So I have personally seen it. I want you to know that I've seen it because it would be a wonderful addition to Fulton.
Thank you, Tammy.
My name is Taylor A. Strike. I live at 901 State Street, and I'm definitely in favor for this We Built project. It's something where I'm a special education teacher at the Fulton High School, and it's something where when our students graduate, they don't really have a place to go, at least in the community in Fulton. And so I am in full support of this We Built project. Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. Okay, seeing no one else come forward, this public hearing is now closed. We'll move on to our second hearing tonight. This one will be for the purpose of considering the rezoning of a tract of land located at 1016 Bluff Street in Fulton, Missouri, from its current zoning of C-NB, Central Neighborhood Business, to R3 Residential District. There will be three calls for anyone wishing to speak in opposition, and then 3 calls for those wishing to speak in favor. And again, we ask that you come to the podium and give us your name and your address, and keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. And this hearing is now declared open. There'll be 3 calls issued now for those wishing to speak in opposition. First call, is there anyone here wishing to speak in opposition of this zoning? And second call for anyone present who wishes to speak in opposition of this matter. And third call. All right, now we'll move on to those wishing to speak in favor of the matter being considered. First call, anyone present wishing to speak in favor of this matter. And second call. And third call for anyone wishing to speak in favor. Seeing no one, we'll move on. This public hearing is now closed. Next up tonight, item C, for the purpose of considering the rezoning of a tract of land located at 304 East 10th Street in Fulton from its current zoning of R2 Residential District to C2 Commercial District. The hearing is now declared open. There will be 3 calls issued for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. First call, is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this matter? And second call. And third call for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. Okay, there will be 3 calls now for anyone wishing to speak in favor of the matter being considered. First call, is there anyone present who wishes to speak in favor?
My name is Diane Bugley, and I live at 6305 Shale Court. I am the current owner of the property that we're requesting rezoning on. I'm also the owner of bookkeeping, payroll, and taxes on the corner of 9th and 10th Street, or on the corner of 9th and 10th and Bluff Street, which is right beside the lot that we're requesting rezoning on. Our purpose for requesting this is we would like to, in the upcoming future, tear down the building that we're in currently and put in a new building, additional parking, and perhaps a storage building. We're still arguing about that one. And the only other thing that I have on this is our intention is to put up a privacy fence around the property so that it would not have an impact to the residents in the neighborhood. And the additional parking would be beneficial because there is a parking issue on that street anyway. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. All right, second call now. Is anyone present who wishes to speak in favor of this matter? And third and last call, anyone here wishing to speak in favor? And seeing no one come forward, this public hearing will now be considered closed. And our final item tonight, the purpose of considering the amendments to the subdivision code, Chapter 102 of the Fulton City Code, as applicable to existing and new requirements affecting all property in the city. A detailed list of the proposed amendments was published with the public hearing notice. A lot there. But you've all had a chance to see it. The hearing will now be declared open. There will be 3 calls issued for anyone wishing to speak in opposition of the matter being considered. And first call now, is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Second call. And third and final call for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. Okay, at this time, we'll move to 3 calls for anyone wishing to speak in favor. First call, anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this matter. And second call, and third and final call. This public hearing is now declared closed, and we'll move on with our agenda. Thank you all. Next up, we have our consent agenda. Council members may choose to remove an item for discussion prior to approving the agenda. Tonight, we have 2 items, the approval of the City Council meeting minutes of August 23rd and the approval of the Directors of Administration report of August 2022. And I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to remove the Director of Administration report. I have a few things I'd like to discuss.
Very good.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the remaining items on the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
And opposed, no. All right, at this time, we'll dig into the DOA report. Should all have a copy in front of you. Do you have a page number?
Yeah,
there,
page
Mike?
15, Kyle, Mr. Brennan. The delay of the Second Street Bridge replacement. One of the statements you make here is that that MoDOT and FHWH, which I guess is Federal Highway,
Administration.
okay, that they will not add some more supporting funds. So how much do we think this delay might cost us? Do we know?
The delay shouldn't cost us anything but time, really. The project's already been bid by our contractor, and really the delay is just so once construction starts, it can proceed to the end without a gap in time, you know, of work stoppage. With winter approaching, basically starting the spring and get it
I
done.
totally support the decision. I think it was the right thing to do. I just was curious, concerned that there might be some additional costs.
We had asked MoDOT and Federal Highway if there was any additional funds that could go to support this project, any turnback funds from any other projects that they had or anything like that. It was worth the ask, but it didn't bear any fruit.
Okay. I know we're waiting on materials as part of the reason for the delay, and then by the time we would get some of the materials, it'd be winter time, so.
Right. The contractor is, his main issue was the girders that span the creek, is getting those here. There was quite a delay in getting those from his subcontractor.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you. That's all
And
I
I
have.
think, correct me if I'm wrong, but the ask from MoDOT and FHWA was not really related to the delay, but more the cost of the girders. That was way more than what we thought.
Correct. Since it came in over what was estimated, we were hoping that maybe there was some additional funds, additional grant that we could obtain.
Very
Okay,
good.
thank you. And my second one is on page 20 for Chief Ladwig, under Police Department. I don't know about the middle. Officers recovered a large amount of meth and ethanol from an incident. So, first of all, I want to applaud our officers for this discovery, however you want to phrase it. But I'm also concerned that, I've heard a lot in the national news about fentanyl, and now we're seeing it in colored form so it looks like candy to children. And I warned you a little bit before the meeting, I was going to ask you this, what steps are we taking to kind of educate, we have Halloween coming up and there's a lot of concern around that. They look like Sweet Tarts or Skittles or whatever you want to call them.
Bill Ledwig, Chief of Police. Fentanyl is an issue. It's a nationwide issue, and I'm seeing those reports now of the candy-colored and shaped doses of fentanyl that are literally just being marketed by drug dealers. We have not seen that here in mid-Missouri yet. I can get together some information that we can put on our social media pages and help educate the public. And I can get some information. I'll find some information, get them to the schools as well.
Okay, that'd be great.
That, fortunately, we haven't seen that type yet, but unfortunately, it is now being produced that way and marketed that way.
Yeah, probably just a matter of time. I hadn't even heard that we'd had any in town, but it didn't surprise me that we do. I just,
We do find fentanyl in town. The overdoses that we have when the toxicology reports come back usually do show fentanyl in that report, but it's usually been cut into heroin or some other substance that they've used, unfortunately.
yeah, it's a real concern for the nation and our community. So thanks to your officers and keep up the good work, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chief?
Yes, sir.
While you're up there on this same page here, see the total number of vehicle accidents increased from 16 to 31. Is there any outlying theme associated with that or anything we can do to try to minimize?
I can go back and look at the individual accidents. During August is when school did start back up into session. I've worked a couple personally myself that had involved some kids getting out of school, not paying attention and hitting someone from behind. So more traffic out on the roads in that latter half of August.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Nothing else, I move for acceptance of the Director of Administration report for August.
Second.
Thank you, folks.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other questions on the DOA report? I know it keeps getting more streamlined each month, and I appreciate the efforts. And I would echo my thank you to the police staff. They're shorthanded right now, but they're doing a wonderful job. Thanks guys and gals. All right. No more questions. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
And opposed, no. Thank you. Next up for discussion, our presentation and acceptance of the August financial statement. Ms. Holschlag?
Kathy Hoschlag, CFO. We've now recorded 7 months of sales tax. We're 5.8% higher than we were at the same period last year. And I think the latest numbers I heard on inflation were 8.5% to 9%. So we are somewhat behind the 8 ball on that. The total increase for the 2.5% is right around $159,000. Use tax is up 12%, which is around $38,000. I've tried to put everything in the notes. I would draw your attention to the fact that electric and gas both had a loss month to date and a significant loss year to date. Solid Waste spent $4,700 on recycling carts, which the Mid-Missouri Solid Waste District will reimburse us for. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Okay, gas. I see your revenues, and this is for August, right? So why are expenses so high? I mean, I understand that we always lag paying, getting revenues in for
Because
gas,
of the
but
cost of gas of what we're selling, basically.
we're having this much usage?
Well, the revenues reflect what we billed for,
Right,
but the cost of natural gas is up.
correct.
Just like on electric,
Right,
the bulk of the expenses are the cost of purchase power.
right. So do we expect that in September, the revenues will be over this expense for August, or no?
I don't expect it to be over, no.
Okay,
Because typically, gas loses money until probably December,
yeah,
depending on what the weather's like.
sure.
It's a seasonal product,
Right.
and, you know, the cost of natural gas has been higher.
All right. Okay, and electricity, I know.
And the cost of electric has skyrocketed.
Right.
It can't, I think I noticed on the last few invoices I paid, it had come down. But an example of what's happened with gas is typically, which is not reflected here because that was a September invoice, but Sykeston gives us a true-up once a year.
Okay,
And it's traditionally a pretty good credit, several $100,000. This year was a debit.
mm,
So
And we'll be hearing more about this later tonight.
Stay tuned.
Utility Lauren has some
So-
kind of bad news for
yeah,
us.
we're gonna have to discuss that.
Sorry, Lauren.
Always, just get ready for
Blame Lauren.
the utility board report.
Yeah, it's ugly.
If nothing else, I move the acceptance of the August 22 operating statement. And thank you for your hard work.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions on this? It's pretty sobering, that inflation number. But, yep, it's reality. Thank you. All those in favor say yes?
Yes.
And opposed, no? We do not have unfinished business for new business tonight. We had the request from the Fulton High School Student Council for the Fulton Homecoming Parade. Do we have some representatives here? Oh, Taylor again. Come on up, sir.
Do double duty.
My name is Taylor A. Strike, 901 State Street, and I'm on here on behalf of Fulton High School Student Council, and we are requesting that we have a parade October 7th, starting at 3 p.m., but we also would like to start lining up on Nichols starting at 2 p.m. We turn right on 9th Street, turn right on Court Street, turn right on 4th Street, and then end up back on Nichols Street. And I guess our only request on top of that is that we have 4th Street blocked off through traffic starting at 2 p.m. as the street gets so congested. This is my first time doing this, so I'm sorry, I don't know what else I need to say, but is that
You
it?
did great.
Awesome. Truly
Information
appreciate
has
it.
been delivered and the request has been made. I know Chief Ladwig has reviewed this and given his thumbs up, I think.
Do I step away or?
Yeah, you
I have
can
a
stay
question.
close
Okay.
by in case there's any questions. We won't run you off quite yet.
Bill Ladwig, Chief of Police. This is a yearly tradition. We have handled this every year for many, many years. I will talk with Mr. Astrike, and we will make sure that we make all the necessary arrangements so they have a safe and wonderful homecoming parade.
Very good.
One question. What street did you say you wanted to close at 2 o'clock?
Nichols.
Okay, I thought I heard 4th Street. I was trying to figure that out. Okay. My bad hearing, I guess. Thank you.
Of course.
Move to approve the request for the homecoming parade, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Okay. You got a couple of seconds? Any other questions? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
And opposed, no. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have Tamara Tatesian here, Executive Director of the Callaway Chamber of Commerce, to provide her quarterly update.
That's how you pronounce that.
She's got handouts.
I was wondering how to pronounce that.
So let me adjust the microphone. Can y'all hear me? It's Tamara Tatesian. I'm the Executive Director of the Callaway Chamber of Commerce. I'm here to provide you all a quarterly report. We were here a few weeks ago with the Board of Directors for our open dialogue and conversation, but tonight I'm going to present to you kind of some of the things that we have been working on for the last few months. Just as a reminder, we have a strategic plan that we focus on, and that is the Chamber and the Fulton Area Development Foundation's strategic plan. We have 6 buckets that we focus on: workforce development, economic development, advanced business excellence through education, supporting our entrepreneurs, financial sustainability, and maximizing operations, and then delivering value to our membership that belong to the Chamber of Commerce. So for economic development, this year we have submitted 11 requests for information to the Missouri Partnership, or Missouri DED. We have had 3 economic development projects that are non-traditional, that did not come through Missouri Partnership, totaling 14 industrial economic development projects that we've been working this year. What I handed you all whenever I stepped up was a press release from one of our local companies, Fulton, that came out today. As a reminder, economic development is not just about getting new businesses, it's about retaining the ones that we have. And so this is a great example of how we are retaining the businesses here in our community. They're making a capital investment, bringing in a new press, so that's very exciting for our community. And I wanted y'all to have that today before it comes out in the newspaper. In 2021, a question that I always get is, where are the projects that we have made application for? And back in January, we had Sabosh, alias with the Missouri Partnership, that did our presentation for our Leadership Callaway. He's coming back in January. I've made an invite to the entire City Council to come and hear his presentation on what happens with the RFIs, how they work with the consultants to select those sites. One of the things that I have asked for from Missouri Partnership is what happens with those projects. Once we send them off to them, then what happens? Well, a lot of times they don't know what happens to the projects, but sometimes they do. So in 2021, we had 25 projects that we submitted to the Missouri Partnerships. From those projects that they know what happened to them, they had 5 of them that are still currently active. 2 of them, they know they did not come anywhere in the state of Missouri. They lost them. 1 is on hold indefinitely by the company. And then 14 of them that were completely unknown. And then the rest of them, I don't know. We don't know where they're at. So that just kind of gives you an idea of what's going on. We did recently submit a project that we did last year in 2021, so it's resurfaced. So we have completed an RFI and then the RFP. So we're hoping that we can hopefully get a site visit from that in the very near future. So one of our other buckets is workforce development. So some of the things that we're doing right now with workforce development is we're having National Manufacturing Day tours. Those will be held on Tuesday, October 11th. And we will be touring high school students to 4 different manufacturing companies. Actually, I think there's 5. We have Dollar General Distribution, Hitachi Energy, AZZ, Walsworth, Fulton, and I believe Mid-America Precast. So we, and Dan User. Oh, there's Janae, Dan User. There's more than that. Thank you, Janae. We are also having a job fair and a business expo that will be held on November 9th. This will be our 2nd job fair that we had this year. We did one back in the spring. We had a great turnout from businesses, even though we put it out on KRCG and ran all these commercials. We didn't have that great of attendance, but apparently that is the same thing that's happening everywhere else too. You have the job fair and not that many people come. So we're hopeful. We're going to do it again, see what happens. And then we are going to bring in the Be Pro, Be Proud simulator, and this is to showcase skilled trade jobs. Students will actually in the spring be able to go onto this trailer. They'll get a tryout like driving an 18-wheeler or doing welding. There's lots of different tools that they have in their plumbing, and it's all that virtual reality. So they'll actually get to sit down, drive the steering wheel. I've actually went through the simulation and was no good at driving an 18-wheeler. Next, we have Advanced Business Excellence through Education, and this is where we focus on our outreach to our colleges and the K through 12. The local lemon, we had that recently. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that in a few minutes. Callaway Careers, this is what we'll do in the fall with William Woods and Westminster students, educating them about the businesses that we have here in the community, that if they want to stay here upon graduation and work, we would love for them to stay. We're also doing the college and career fair at the Fulton High School, and then working with the Fulton JAG program. We recently, back in the spring, as you all well know, we do a Show Me Innovation pitch competition every year. Well, this year we did a Show Me Innovation collegiate pitch competition, and we had students from Lincoln University, William Woods, and Westminster that participated in this. This is our first place winner. She is a student at Westminster. She won $2,000 to help her cover the cost of her new business. So hopefully, as a Westminster student, she will stay here and continue her business on in our community. So the next thing is the local lemon. So this was really a cool thing that we did this year. It was a 6-week program. We had 2 different classes, the 6 to 11-year-olds and 12 to 16-year-olds, and they were learning to own and operate their own business. This is our group of our lemonade participants. They went through the program. As you can see up there in the corner on the left, they have their certificates in their hand. That means they completed the 6-week program, learning how to own and operate. Then we had the mayor of Fulton that came in, and he presented a proclamation to the kids for completing that program and to open up their lemonade stand on that following Saturday. And then we had a ribbon cutting to help celebrate their lemonade stands. So I don't think you can read that, but the lemonade stands, there was 5 of those. 4 of those were actually in Fulton. We had Jets, the M-Twins Lemonade, Not Just Lemons, T-Rex's Lemonade, and the Lemonade Lady. Here's some the Not Just Lemons. They sold cookies, lemon cookies, to go with their little stand. And I was quite impressed with their setup. This was the T-Rex that was set up outside of the Tractor Supply, and that was her mother that got dressed in the heat in the T-Rex outfit and danced around so that she could draw attention to her daughter's lemonade stand.
What you do for your kids, right?
What you will do for your kids, right, right. But they, the parents were so excited that their kids were learning something about business and responsibility. So our results from this, so they had the 6 weeks of interactive learning. We had 7 Callaway County youth, and we had started with 11, but some of them just didn't complete the course. There was 5 lemonade stands. They sold 271 cups of lemonade. They earned $1,500 in total in 4 hours, plus their tips. So they really did a great job on their lemonade stands. We thank the city for allowing them to have their lemonade stands here in our community that day. They were very excited. They came in, they had to check back in all of their items that they had checked out. We counted their money, they counted their tips, they all walked away with a big wad of cash. But one of the stipulations for their participation is they had to make a donation to a nonprofit. So the M-Twins that you see here, they went and made a donation to the Super Sam Foundation. So, they actually gave back to the community after they did this. So we learned some stuff about the lemonade stand, and we hope to, do this with our youth entrepreneurs again in the future. We're planning to do this right after they get out of school next year and condense it down to a week and do it all 5 days, and then that way they can do their lemonade stands or whatever else they're looking at. Some of the kids already are looking at doing the farmers market because they have another business idea that they want to do. So we just need to nurture these youth entrepreneurs because we want them to grow businesses in our community in the future.
Pay any taxes? No, I'm kidding.
They will be one day, yes, they will. They may all have little lemonade stands and be paying all kinds of taxes.
I've actually seen one still in operation. I don't know if it's one of your group, but there's one still been operating.
Yeah, I don't think that was one of our groups,
Okay.
so.
I have to say what I love about that is not only how gratifying to make $1,500 in 4 hours, but it teaches them, what money means, how to make a budget, how to be respectful of things, and how to give back to our community. So I love that they made the donation. Was it just Super Sand that they donated
So,
to?
so one group, they each got to choose where
Okay.
they were going to make their donation. So they left with their money and their plan on who they were going to donate to. And so I think it was actually in the newspaper, those M-twins that actually went out and did their donation. So, it was a really exciting day, but the things that they learned on the pricing of cups and how much to serve, and when I went to my first lemonade stand, I had $1, and they were selling it for $4 a cup, which was a little surprising to me, but that was part of their calculation and how they were going to make their money and what types of ingredients they were using, and if they were using ice or not ice. So there was a whole formula that they learned from Brianna, our small business liaison, and Cindy Baker, our Missouri Women's Business Center coaches that put this program on. So it was pretty fantastic. So we do continue to support other entrepreneurs in our community, all of our small businesses. To date, we have counseled 45 clients and did 70 business visits. And this is where Brianna actually goes into the business, tours, helps them figure out things that they need to be working on and problems and issues. It's just one of those, hey, I need some help. So when you think about those 45 business clients that she's been counseling, that is current businesses that are looking to improve their businesses. That's new business development, and all of those help increase the tax base. So supporting entrepreneurs as well, we've done lots of training this year. Our most well-attended has been the professional development course that we've offered from Missouri Enterprise, and that is a year-long class, and we hold it 6 times a year. And they're committed from January until the finish. We plan to do something like that for that professional development again in 2023. Some upcoming classes, launching your business with a customer-focused marketing and establish a professional domain website and email, and that's on December 7th. Again, we have our Show Me Innovation Pitch Competition. This is for our adults that will be held on Monday, October 31st. We have $3,000 that they could win. So we're working on our judges right now and selecting those. I know we've had some from the city council before. Mary has done it. Jeff, did you do it?
I haven't
No?
yet, but I'd be willing to.
Okay, all right, so I'll let Brianna know, but that's always a great opportunity for those that are looking to open their business or expand their small business. We've held some ribbon cuttings and groundbreakings. Also, we had Teachers Appreciation Breakfast. We held that at William Woods University this year and had 550 teachers in attendance. That's the most that we have ever had at this event, and it was a great day of celebration for those teachers. And I think I've said this a million times. People ask, why will we do that? Well, we need to retain our teachers right here in Callaway County, because I don't want to teach in the classroom. I don't know about y'all, but I'm not an instructor, but those professionals are, and we want to keep them and retain them in our community. So one thing I want to kind of brag about is we do have 2 graduates of the Chamber Management Academy. So Brianna and Amy Books went through that program in August and have officially graduated. Any questions?
Great report.
Thank you, Tamara.
All right, thank you.
It's always a pleasure to hear you give us an update there.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up, council concerns. Council members may discuss matters or concerns not on the agenda. Council liaisons to the boards and commissions will also provide a brief review of the most recent meeting. And first up, Councilman West.
Okay, for the planning and zoning, we met, and the minutes are in your packet. So we met on September 7th and had the public hearings, same as we had tonight. We also discussed the subdivision ordinance, which we have tonight, and we also discussed the annexation issue, which is in our packet tonight as well. And then there were some questions and concerns, and we need to get with our consultant. I think it's Mike. Wait a minute. What's his name? Sorry, I thought it was here. Anyway, so we had him on, when we met on September 20th, we met with him via computer, and he's here tonight to speak to us later. So, and we discussed the subdivision ordinance in more detail, and then we talked, and Kyle was there as well, and we also talked about the annexation, which is different than what we've done in the past, but, you know, we can talk about it more later. As far as council concerns, I have several, but I'm only going to bring up a couple tonight. One is, you know, Wood Street looks great, well, we've repaved it and all, and we've got it striped and all. When do we plan to put the biking and hiking path back, the marking for that? Do we have a plan for that, Kyle?
Kyle Brimmer, city engineer. Mike, what was the question again?
We used to have the paths on the side on Wood Street, and now since we re-asphalted, they're gone. You kind of see the remnants where on the curb, or the gutter. But what's our plan on when we're going to get that repainted?
We were looking at painting that next year. We're actually, our stock of paint is, we've had an issue with our white paint, so we needed to order more paint for that, and it really needs to hold off till next year if possible.
Okay, well, that's what it is, okay. And while you're up here, and maybe Dennis may want to come up also, but the concern of the drainage on this annexation, or this rezoning on Manor, we talked about a little bit at the planning and zoning meeting, but, you know, they have to have a plan to do water, for water retention, right? So can you talk about that a little bit?
Right, so the developer will have to submit improvement plans, and any improvement plan will look at stormwater runoff and what that runoff is doing. Any plan they submit, they must take care of any additional runoff that development causes. The issue here is that we have some historic development up there that does not have any retention or detention to it, so there's already an existing problem.
Right.
That really isn't this subdivision, this proposed subdivision or proposed improvements issue.
Right.
But there could be some cooperation between the city and the developer in this case to try to take care of both. But it's something that we would vet during the plan improvement, the plan submittal, and that process.
And I know you've been working on the stormwater issue at the Lutheran Church, St. Paul's. Can't think of it now. Anyway, the Lutheran Church there across from Walmart and the funeral home.
Correct.
Malta Funeral Home. So maybe we need to, as part of this ongoing thing, should look at that too. I guess we've got a stormwater issue all over the city. So here's another one I wasn't even aware of until this recently came up.
I've seen pictures of the flooding. The Elliots have given me those, and it's not recent. It's an ongoing issue up there that we've looked at in the past, and I think property and obtaining the property has been an issue. But there's potential here.
Yeah, that's something we need to have further discussion. That's all I'm asking for, so we can try to alleviate the issue. Dennis, you have anything to add?
No. Dennis Houchins, Planning Director. Kyle pretty much summed it up.
Okay.
Hopefully we can work together with this new development if it goes through and come up with a solution to solve both issues.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. That's all I had, sir.
Okay, very good, thank you. And next up, Councilman Stone.
Yes, there has not been a Historic Preservation Commission meeting since our last city council meeting, and the next one's not scheduled until October, so I'll have a report on that during the second meeting in October. But on that note, I did want to thank, we had Gayla retired on Monday, And she was a huge support and a longtime support of the Historic Preservation Commission. She provided us with administrative and clerical support, as well as a lot of background research and many different items of service to the commission. So a huge thank you to her, and as well as her service to the city for the many years that she was with us. The only item of concern that I have to share is that there's some work being done by the city on Ravine Street between Ann and either Lynn or Lee. And while the work is very much appreciated, there's been times where the entire streets had to be blocked off, but the cones or the signs have not been done until right at the work. And so it's been observed, and actually myself had to, you get halfway down a block and you realize the entire street's blocked, not just part of it, and we've had to back up. And so many travelers on that road, and it's not just the residents, are having to back up and turn around. And so just asking for awareness at any time the entire street has to be blocked off. If those cones or signs can at least be put it across street and give plenty of notice to the drivers so we don't have to put cars into reverse on a street.
Yeah, that's Visu Sewer guys, I believe, and they're bouncing quite a lot of different places right now. But I experienced that same thing, so we'll get those guys to do that. Thank you.
But that's all I had, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, all right. And I would note that Councilwoman Sabacher and Reclue are neither one here tonight, but I don't believe we've had a park board or traffic commission meeting since then. So I think we're good on that. Next up, Councilman Luther.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Since our last meeting, there has not been another Airport Advisory Board meeting, and I have no current new concerns. I would like to send appreciation to Kyle and our city for addressing the safety concern on the McDonald's Hill. Saw that the sidewalk has been torn out, re-leveled, and re-poured, and is currently curing. It looks amazing, and will definitely be a lot safer than the approximately 6-inch unevenness we had there prior to that. Additionally, I know Kyle's met with some of our potential contractors for airport projects, the runway lighting project, correct? So we got to kind of narrow down our choices for contractors for that project. We also did have the pancake breakfast at the airport that I was unable to make it to. Kyle, any updates on how that breakfast went, or?
I heard great reviews.
Great reviews?
Yeah, I mean, my family went and they were really pleased and
That's
impressed.
always a great event. The weather was good too, wasn't it?
I think so,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
I
unfortunately
wasn't
couldn't
able
make
to
it,
go
but
personally,
yeah.
but my sister went and took her kids and my Mimi, and they said it was wonderful.
Awesome.
We need reminders on those, because I forgot about that when I was planning to go. Yeah.
That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up, Councilman Combs.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the Human Rights Commission did meet, and then due to some changes in those on the commission, we've got a new chairman, Sherry Lococo, and then currently they're working on planning the humanitarian award banquet. We're just going to wait for iron out details on that, and then looking forward again to next year and different things that year will hold. In terms of concerns, I don't know that it's necessarily something that's on the city's radar to necessarily have to do. I'm just noticing through the summer a lot of growth happening over top of sidewalks. So we're talking about, one, the sidewalk being fixed is great, but we're also noticing tree limbs hanging down low and other brush and stuff growing over to where you can't actually use the sidewalks, creating other concerns there.
Yeah, that's something a lot of people don't think about, or may not have the wherewithal to cure that very easily, but that's something to think about. I don't know.
We got a lot of people out walking, I know.
Yeah.
Especially right now, the weather's so great.
Yep. All right, very good, thank you. And last up, Councilwoman Nelson.
Here I am.
With her bad news.
I don't have any concerns tonight. We did have a Public Utility Board meeting, and we all heard Kathy's report. Unfortunately, you know, the price that we're paying for power and what we're seeing in gas right now, it's not good. And I do think that we all need to be aware that the utility board is probably going to make a recommendation on a rate increase. We have asked that Kathy and Daryl and Renee sit down and come back with some sort of estimate on what they think would be a decent increase without costing our citizens too much. You know, something that is feasible. We're seeing the price of inflation right now, and the city's feeling it as well. And I would also like to note that when we're looking at these numbers, I want everybody to consider what it would look like if we weren't in control of our own power. You know, what would it be if somebody else was making these decisions and we weren't getting the final say? So whenever we are proposing those rate increases, I just want everybody to keep that in mind, that I know it's not what we really want to present to our citizens, but at the same time, I don't want to lose the leverage that we have to make the decision ourselves. I will also say that we are trying to look into other sources of power. I know that we had looked into the solar power and jumping on with Columbia, but unfortunately that project has also fallen through because of price increases. We are looking into some energy supplies, such as large wind projects out of western Kansas. So hopefully there are some things on the horizon that are positive for us, but just want everybody to keep an open mind when the utility board does make the proposition to increase rates. Sorry.
Yep, that's okay. You delivered that very easily.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Always the bearer of bad news over here on the
Lauren?
end.
No, it's something that we've kind of been talking about, and we all kind of, it's like the elephant in the room that we've all known about. We've been putting off these rate increases for our citizens due to the economic crisis, the COVID, everybody's struggling, but we're struggling too. The city coffers are being depleted. So the longer we wait, the worse that gets. So we're going to have to do something, and I appreciate you bringing that to our attention. So.
And it's the price of everything, unfortunately. You know, we're seeing it just as much as everybody else is, just in everyday life.
Yep. So we're not immune to that.
Councilwoman Nelson, has the utility board brought up the idea of the city becoming a provider of solar instead of letting contractors come in and potentially take business away from us?
You know, I think it would be better suited for Daryl to take over this.
He'll thank you later for that.
I don't know if I'm quite qualified for that, so.
Yes, we've looked at that over the past several years, is find some city property and actually putting solar panels on them, it'd be city-owned. And then, you know, the Columbia deal came along, and it was a large project, so you kind of get a price on scale also, so the larger the project, you know, the better the price comes in. And there was tax incentives for a private developer to develop the project, keep the tax incentives, but give us a purchase power agreement that was cheaper than what we could do.
I understand that, but what about I know some other utilities are offering the service of installing solar. So if a commercial business in town wants solar, they could go outside of town, right, get a contractor, and then we lose them as a potential customer. What about the city providing that service?
To be the contractor to put it on the roofs of the homes?
To install it, to maintain it, and that way we're still staying the,
No, we have not looked at that.
that's something that I believe other utilities are starting to get into. Might be something to think about.
Thank you, Daryl.
Yeah, thank you, Daryl.
Mr. Mayor.
All right, we appreciate all the participation on those boards and commissions. Yes, you had something else?
No, could we get a short break? before we
Thank
move on?
you.
Yeah, we can do that.
Me too, please.
We'll take 5 here.
Thank you.
Be right back, guys. Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order now. Thank you all for your patience there. We do not have resolutions tonight, so next up, ordinances. Our first one tonight, Councilman Combs, if you would read bill number 1650 for first reading.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Bill number 1650, an ordinance reclassifying under the zoning code an improvement tract of land located at the end of Manor Drive and west of North Hornet Water Tower in Fulton, Missouri, and establishing an effective date. I make a motion to place bill number 1650 for second reading at the next regularly scheduled meeting. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We did have a public hearing tonight on this item. There were several folks that came to speak about this, both against and in favor of. And the floor is open to our council. What are your thoughts?
I'm torn. Mr. Mayor, I think this is a good project, but also, recognize the neighbors in the area have some concerns, especially with the stormwater issue. And I think that's something we should address and should be able to address. I'm going to support it tonight, but I want to have further discussions on it, because if one of us votes no on this, it'll die. And I think it needs further discussion. We need some plans on what we're going to do. Okay? That's my thought.
And I appreciate that attitude. We are light on our council tonight. We had 3 folks that aren't here to be able to talk about it. So, yeah, let's not kill it.
Yeah.
And I will say, I like the idea of the project itself. I have a niece that's special needs that could someday maybe be part of this community. We all probably know somebody that could benefit from this in our families or our friends. And the fact that we do have some concerns from our citizens, we have to take that to heart as well. And hopefully that can help address some of the water concerns.
Right.
So.
And at planning and zoning, I'm sorry, I forgot you. Ms. Chambers, you came to the meeting and some others did in the neighborhood, and it was kind of split on how people felt about it, I thought. And I don't think they're planning on knocking down all the trees, but you never know what's going to happen in the future, 20 years from now, 30 years from now. And I can understand that too, which is always the issue when once we make a change like this, it's hard to return, and I understand that too.
One thing to keep in mind is for council and me as well, we shouldn't even be truly considering the purpose. It's just about the zoning.
Correct.
And it could be used. Sure, this proposal may or may not end up happening, but we have to concentrate and focus on the zoning. Is it good for the city of Fulton to change that and open that up to this type of zoning, regardless of what may or may not happen in the future. So.
And that's a very good point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, that being said, does anyone else have questions or concerns?
Only other question for, I don't know for the construction or realtor, but how's the sound levels in that area of the town?
So our plan for construction would be to have lots of insulation. We're also planning to have, rather than a lawn.
Ms. Hanson, I'm so sorry. Do you mind coming up? They apparently can't hear you on the recording. Sorry about that.
So our plans for construction would go right along with what they've done in Clackamas, Oregon, and everything is very well insulated to where if you are in your unit, it's very quiet because there are lots of autistic individuals who have aversities to those high frequency kinds of things. I know it'll be fun during marching band season and that sort of thing when they're outside, but inside their units, it will be very quiet. We also have plans for the lawn part of our 1 acre to be astroturf so that there isn't a need for mowing and weed eating and for those high frequency kinds of machines and noises. So sound is definitely a concern and plan to be a pretty quiet group.
Thank you. I also wanted to point out, I don't know if you guys got the map, I didn't get it in the council packet, but the map that was supplied in zoning. It shows the properties along Manor Drive, the ones right next to this property are zoned R2 right now, but they're really an R3 use, if I'm not mistaken. It's there right now. Is that, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Houchin?
Dennis Houchins, Planning Director. Yeah, the Rock Tree Apartments right now are multifamily, and it's currently zoned R2, so it's considered a non-conforming use, but as long as they continue at that use, it'll stay non-conforming.
Sort of
Grandfathered
grandfathered
in,
in.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then on the west side of that property is commercial. Is that pretty much?
Yes.
Correct.
So the zoning request change would be from R2 to R3.
R1 to
Or
R3.
R1 to R3.
Yeah.
And would there be any benefit to going ahead and making that a C, commercial zone, as opposed to R3?
If you would go to a commercial, you would open the door to commercial property. You're leaving it at residential, you keep mostly residential, multifamily, churches, schools. But once you go to that commercial, you could, options are,
Then you could have all of that traffic and all the other things.
yeah, you open the door to any commercial, I'm not gonna say any commercial, but a lot of commercial uses.
All right. Anybody else? All right, thank you very much. All those in favor say yes?
Yes.
And opposed, no? All right, that'll move forward to second read. Next up, we have Bill 1651, if you would present that, Councilman West.
Okay, let me dig it out here, sorry. An ordinance Bill number 1651, ordinance number blank. An ordinance reclassifying under the zoning code a tract of land located at 1016 Bluff Street in Fulton, Missouri, and establishing an effective date. I move for movement of this to second reading at the next regularly scheduled council meeting.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. And again, we did hear a public hearing on this tonight. I don't believe, do we have anybody speak on any of the other public
Nope,
hearings?
not on this one, they didn't.
So there was no public comment.
And I don't think there was at P&Z either, was there?
No, this is, we updated our zoning ordinance, and this was a recommendation from Scott Hanson with Crawford Murphy Tilley. We only had one property zoned, commercial neighborhood business district, and it currently wasn't being used for that purpose. It's currently a multifamily use, so the recommendation was to eliminate the zoning. So this rezoning is to clean that property up to match our current zoning code.
Are there any other properties in the city that are this? That's what I was thinking.
This is the only one.
This is it.
Mhm.
And there didn't sound like there was any opposition to it. It's basically kind of housekeeping.
Yeah.
All right. Any other concerns on this? I'll call for the question. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
And opposed, no. Thank you, Dennis. And next up, Councilman Luther, if you would, bill number 1652.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Bill number 1652, an ordinance reclassifying under the zoning code a tract of land located at 304 10th Street in Fulton, Missouri, establishing an effective date. Also, I'd like to make note that the original discussion said 304 East 10th Street. This is not. So 304 East 10th Street, Fulton, Missouri, establishing an effective date. I make a motion to place bill number 1652 for second reading at the next regular scheduled council meeting.
Second.
Okay, very good. We have a motion and a second, and of course, that is East Second, right down there by the middle school. It's a current business that's wanting to expand.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I would like to make a motion, we table bill number 1652 tonight, because at this point in time, I'm in opposition to this. But I'd really like to have further discussion with the owner. And I believe Ms. Sabacher has some concerns as well. So in order to give the council more time, I would like to table this for tonight and then bring it back up next meeting.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. So basically, this would just keep us from killing it. It's still alive. If we have a vote and only one member doesn't approve this tonight, it would be dead. So we don't want to do that to it without giving it a fair vetting of our council. So we appreciate that, Mr. West.
Thank you.
Any other questions on that? Okay, the motion is to table. I'll call for that question. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
And opposed, no. We will come back to this. And that'll be on our next council. Okay, next up, bill number 1653, Councilman Stone.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Bill number 1653, an ordinance repealing Chapter 102 subdivisions, Fulton City Code, enacting a new code chapter in lieu thereof, and establishing an effective date. I make a motion to move bill number 1653 for second reading in our next scheduled council meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and there's a lot here. If you want to go to sleep, try reading some of this stuff. It's a lot, but I know Dennis is here to kind of hit some of the highlights for us, if you would.
Yeah, Dennis Houchins, Planning Director. So back in October, I believe, we were notified by Mid-Missouri Regional Planning of a grant they'd secured for our rezoning ordinance. And we brought on Scott Hansen with Crawford, Murphy, and Tilley to help us update that, kind of give it a refresher. We didn't change a lot. We have a new version, I'm going to say, of updated language from the old language. We had some funds left over from that grant, so Kyle and I got with Scott and discussed him updating the subdivision ordinance or looking at it. And so we worked through that, and Scott's here tonight with us to kind of give you, he's got a PowerPoint he put together to kind of give you a quick overview of the subdivision ordinance and how it's going to work.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, my name is Scott Hansen. We have offices in St. Louis at 100 Memorial Drive, Suite 500. And it's been a pleasure to work with your staff over the past 11 months or so to update your zoning code and subdivision regulations. And while the zoning code frequently gets all the attention because it's one of 3 items that you talked about already tonight, it's equally important as the subdivision regulations. So kudos to the city and the city staff working to make sure those codes are updated. And be happy to try to answer any questions. Rather than having you read and falling asleep, reading the code, we do have a rendering, I believe is included in your packet, that shows for the average user basically what the process entails. And of course we can change these arrows, and of course it's also abbreviated significantly in order to keep it simple and keep it to one page. But this is a summary of the land subdivision process, everything from the preliminary plat stage all the way through the final plat stage, and in between how the city handles improvement plans as well. So we worked hard on that element as well. That needed an update, and as the years go by, new ways to finance land improvements, such as letters of credit, emerge, and it's important that you keep your code up to date in regards to those new financing instruments so that your developers can continue to move forward. So with that being said, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I know the Plan Commission had some good discussions about this about 14 days or so ago, and Councilman West, we had some good discussion about that, and I think staff was able to help with many of those questions, but like I said, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I know some of the discussion was that, are we trying to make it harder for our contractors to make these subdivisions. And really the effort is to make it easier. You know, there's more substance there to see what the rules are, as opposed to kind of what we really didn't have a lot to go on. Now they can look at our subdivision process and answer their own questions, so to speak, right there in front of them, instead of having to call and ask. It's right there in black and white. So I think that's the main effort, and that may have been not presented that way, but that's what it's all about, and appreciate the effort that was put forth. But there's a lot of changes, a lot there. Not really changes, but just clarification. More than anything.
I think it's more or less updating the standard practice, today's standard practice.
Yep, very good. Any questions or concerns on that?
Not really a question as much as on, there was a lot of conversation on page 20 about the road pavement widths, and we went back and forth. One of the planning and zoning members wanted to go down to 30 feet, and Kyle convinced everyone to go to the 32. My only thing is I would like to have some provision in here that the preference is to have two-way both-side parking. If anybody wants to deviate from that, they need to come to the council with the reason that they want to do that. I would like to add that in here somewhere, little note. I don't know. That's the only concern I have, because I don't want to end up with another Willow Creek, is it? Where we had to cut down half the parking after it was built.
Correct, that's Willow Creek, and the idea with that road width table was to kind of further, as the mayor said, you know, define what the city is going to accept as our minimums.
Right.
I know that I had originally recommended 36 foot.
Right.
The commission wanted to see that reduced down to 30 foot and then 32 foot. So I was, you know, just based on what I was looking at is standard street widths and parking lane widths, and so that's where I developed that 36 foot from, and they got reduced down to 32.
Right.
But
Is 32 enough to, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to ask, I wasn't under the impression that it was reduced. I thought that was a conversation.
It was going up to 36, and the commission, one of the members of the commission wanted it down to 30. He couldn't get any support for that, so the compromise was 32.
So is that really safe? Because we're already facing issues with having streets wide enough to allow emergency management vehicles to come through, or even garbage trucks to come through. And we're talking about setting a standard that's going to allow our streets to have enough width, and people can park their cars on the streets without having to worry about accidentally getting sideswiped, or more importantly, if our emergency management folks need to get through, they can.
Right.
I do believe we have some pictures of what the 32 looks like, and it's pretty tight.
Yeah. Well, obviously, the preference is to have off-street parking, no parking on the street at all, but, you know, folks have visitors, whatever, so that happens sometimes, so,
right.
Go ahead.
In the table that I offered, there's a definition of a local street and a collector street, and the commission recommended that the 36 be reduced down to 32. And on those local streets.
Right.
So when you, and I'll offer a picture up to Renee to pass around.
Give it to
Kyle, can you define local and collector?
Yes, it's actually defined in the definitions of the subdivision code. If you look toward the back on page 38.
Thank you, I hadn't gotten there yet.
Right.
Appreciate that.
A local street means a street used primarily to provide access to abutting properties only and carry no through traffic, where a collector street is a street in which, in addition to serving abutting properties, intercepts minor streets, connects with community facilities, and carries neighborhood traffic to the major arterial street system. So, local streets, you're
Local is
looking
a
at.
dead end?
Locals, not necessarily a dead end, but it's really only serving, meant to serve the adjoining properties primarily.
But, you know, as time goes on, you know, look at, like Clevewood has a lot of traffic to it from people coming off Z, or even from where I live, go through Z, go down towards Walmart and all that. You know, even the folks that live on Morningside can attest, they have a lot of traffic, more traffic now than they did 30 years ago when Wood Street didn't go through, you know, and Walmart wasn't there. And they're all nodding, yes.
So basically what was meant to be a connector street has become a thoroughfare.
It has.
Yeah.
It has become that, yes.
When you consider, and I had in that picture, obviously, I had Chief Cofelt and his guys help me out, but I just wanted to see what a fire truck of his, would do on a street that was, the street shown is 32 foot back of curb to back of curb. So it gets pretty tight when you're talking about parking on both sides. So it would reduce a local street down to essentially, one way for a emergency vehicle.
And you guys are right up against the curbs with these vehicles too.
Right. When you're like a normal vehicle like mine, you're looking at needing at least at minimum 7 foot, and really that's tight. I mean, the back of my car is 6 foot 6 inches, and that doesn't include the mirrors. So, that's why 8 foot is usually used for a parking stall, and because you got to remember, people don't like to be right up next to that curb. So, but as discussed in the meeting, it's if you reduce it, I mean, the more you reduce it down, day to day, that might reduce the amount of speed going through that local street. But you got to keep in mind emergency services.
Right.
And trash trucks, daily functions.
I know my streets in Westwood are 30 foot across, and that's from curb to curb, just like that picture shows is 31.
The picture there is Willow Creek.
That's Willow Creek?
It's Willow Creek, Commons Drive is what that is.
And I don't know what it is out at Tanglewood. You know how wide it is there?
Tanglewood is 31, I think it's 31 to 32.
Okay.
Is what Tanglewood is. Southwinds is about the same
Yeah.
thing.
There was some concern expressed at the zoning meeting about snow removal was one concern, and the other one was about the cost of development, but a few years back, we had an auction on Clevewood, and there were cars on both sides, and I was very concerned about a emergency vehicle being able to get down there. And I'm not sure what the width of the streets are there, but they're probably comparable to close to 30. And there's a lot of times that people are parked on both sides of the street. One person has to wait for someone else to go through.
That was a comment I was getting ready to make, Councilman
Yeah.
West. It's not just the emergency vehicles, it's the day-to-day traffic.
Yeah.
Reducing this down to 32 feet means that there will never be an opportunity for two cars to pass on the road while two people are parked in front of their home.
Yeah.
That's right.
You're right.
I mean, that's just the way it is.
Council can change
It would be really uncomfortable.
What is your opinion? I want to know, do you think it really needs to be 36? Do you feel like that's?
Yeah, my opinion is what I offered in the table originally is 36 foot. And that's really on a local street. You're 2 10-foot lanes and an 8-foot parking stall on either side, and that's how you get to 36. So, that's what I would recommend, looking at all the guidebooks and everything else. That's really, I wouldn't go any lower than 36.
And just looking at this picture, I mean, that tells you the story right there.
Yeah.
And Renee, you
Can't-
and I have talked about this many times. We don't want to make exceptions just because it's easier, because then you pay the price down the road.
Correct.
You're paying the price now for a lot of those exceptions that got made years ago, so.
And if I may, Madam Clerk, Madam Assistant Deputy of Administration.
Yes, sir.
Courtney.
Yes.
If the council wished to make a change within the body of this ordinance during our normal process of passing an ordinance, what does that process look like to us?
Simply just a motion to amend whatever specific language you would like to change, and then we would get a second, and we would do a standard vote. Any changes can be made all the way up to final passage. So once we present it for third reading, before we vote on final passage, that would be the cutoff for being able to make any changes.
And is all of this language considered part of the current ordinance under Bill
I believe everything.
1653?
Yes, so this is the current attachment, all language in here is included.
Okay.
Yep.
Before you go on,
No, I just wanted to,
no,
we're in the process.
before you make this motion that you're thinking of, we also changed the minimum right-of-way width from, what was it, to 54?
So it was 58 before,
Yeah. So
and
you
it
might
was
want to,
reduced to 54?
so what I'm saying, if you're going to make a motion, you might want to consider what I just told
Okay.
you.
And may I ask, what was the content of the conversation where the P&Z Commission decided to compromise? I mean, was it simply a loudest voice in the room? Or what?
So
Help
as,
us understand your decision for the compromise.
yeah, so how the 32-foot got developed was that there were multiple on the commission that really wanted 30-foot, and I said, you cannot, my recommendation is you really cannot go any lower than 32-foot. 32-foot is 7-foot parking stalls and 9-foot travel lanes. So that's really the minimum that you can go to. So there was a vote on 30-foot, and 30-foot failed.
For lack of motion, lack of second, actually.
Right, lack of a second. And then 32-foot was then proposed, and then that carried. So,
It was really only one person.
So
okay.
So it wasn't necessarily substance of a conversation and consensus and agreement. It sounds like it was more of, let me make a motion until I get the minimum number I'm looking for. And I'm not trying to put words in the commission's mouth or make you give a false sense of the conversation, but it's feeling like it wasn't really a conversation of how do we make this safe, how do we make this appropriate, how do we make this as small as possible?
I think the
actually reducing
commission,
it from what it was before. I mean, that was it. It's not like okay, how do we increase it the minimum amount? It was how do we decrease it the maximum amount that we can.
yeah, the feel that I got, and Mike and Dennis can add or subtract from this as much as they want, but the feel that I got from the commission is that they're trying to appease developers and the amount of money it costs to build a road, and also provide enough, just enough space.
Okay.
And, but, on a day-to-day basis, would it work? Potentially for a small vehicle, but when you're talking trash, picking up everybody's trash, when you're talking about the emergency services that are required, I personally would go with 36.
And you weren't at the first meeting. Dennis can probably talk a little bit more about the first meeting a little bit. What the
Yeah, I think
pleasure
they were
was.
trying to find a happy medium for the contractors and for it to work in communities. I mean, I know you can definitely tell a difference in all the streets in Tanglewood. The main street, there's not a lot of parking. It seems really wide, but if you get the parking on the off streets, where there's more parking, it gets really narrow really quick. So that extra 4 foot would make a big difference.
And the other concern expressed was that if you have a wider street, people are going to go faster on it. And this came from one of the members that is an ex-police officer, so, you know, Chief Ladwood may be able to confirm or deny, but I know Wood Street seems like a racetrack some days since it's been repaved, so, you know, I can attest to that feeling, you know, that you have a wider, straighter street, no cars, people are going to speed up and go faster. That was another concern that was expressed.
And it also plays the other side of the coin, that if you have a wider street, then the speed limit can be faster.
Yeah.
So people will go fast. You know,
Yeah.
it all plays into that. I mean, that's the piece that we're asking Dennis and Scott, is that Scott?
Yeah.
And Kyle to look at, is how does all this stuff play together? And, you know, what now is that speed limit that we have to post because the street is wide enough? But you know, my biggest concern is that many of the newer neighborhoods that you drive through, you can't navigate through the neighborhood if someone's coming the other direction. And it just doesn't happen, and that's not meant to be that way. I mean, if you're not able to navigate 2 cars passing on a street, then parking should be only on one side or
Right.
not at all. I mean, that needs to be the focus there as well as.
And once you build it, that decision is
Yeah,
made.
it's done.
That's
It's
right.
It's got to
done
be
and
on
it's
the
made.
front end. But I think that's what we're trying to do. We do have another reading of this, actually 2 more after tonight. So we could mull this over, get some more testimony maybe from our EMTs or contractors even to plead their case, maybe to come back next meeting.
I would like to know the cost difference. Like if you're building a neighborhood, I don't even know how you can do that really. You say the size of Tanglewood, what would the cost difference be in the 4 foot? I want to know what it looks like in the money. And 2, you know, I know for our neighborhood specifically, I know we've kind of used Tanglewood here as an example. Even on Tanglewood Way, where there's a couple of cars, people do tend to go faster. But my husband and I walk. You know, if we're walking around a car, Mike, I know you walk a lot too.
Right.
So if you're walking around a car and something's coming, or somebody has to go around you, that's not very much space to
Right.
get not very far from you.
Right.
So I want us to think about those things too, not just cars, but pedestrians, because when we do have nice neighborhoods and we have these nice streets, we want to be out on them. Bike riders, you know, kids in our neighborhood too.
Right.
So you got to have plenty of space to not only have a car parked in the street, but be able to go around somebody that's also.
And I want to applaud the fact that we're trying to set a standard, because I thought we had a standard. But Westwood is 30 feet. You say Willow Creek is 31, or parts of it is, Commons Drive is. Tanglewood is around 31 feet. So we've got a hodgepodge now, and that's a fairly recent construction. Westwood was built in early 2000s. So we've had I don't know how we've got all these disparities. I thought we had a standard, but maybe not. So I like the fact that we're trying to set a standard. And, I mean, if you guys want to go with it like it is tonight and amend it for next meeting or whatever, but I go either way.
I think one thing to keep in mind is our trash trucks they're huge, and they go down those streets every week.
Yep.
And so, you know, if you have cars parked, they're trying to navigate in and out of those cars to get to those trash containers. It's pretty difficult.
And think of the snow plows. I mean, that time of year is coming up soon too. So, I'll go ahead and make the motion that we change, because I want to include my other piece in there too. Well, no, I'll make it a separate motion, so in case somebody don't like the idea. That we make the two-way both side parking 36 feet with the minimum right-of-way 58 feet, which is the original recommendation.
Second?
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second to amend the proposed bill. I think we've all heard the facts on this, so to speak. Are there
Madam
any
Clerk,
other-
do you need the article in the section
No.
on the page? Thank you.
Thank you, then.
She knows where I'm at.
Just didn't know if it needed to be in the motion.
Good point, yeah, you're right.
Any other questions or discussion?
What's the specific language you're looking at adding now?
Page 20, you're going to be changing the 32 to 36, and
It's-
you're changing the 54 to 58. So we're updating the minimum road pavement width on two-way both side parking from 32 to 36, and the minimum right-of-way width on two-way both side parking from 54 to 58.
It's section 102-56, streets and alleys. Item N, as in November, table A.
So underneath November too, it talks about the city engineer may require these minimum standards be increased. So would we need to flip that then and say these could be decreased by exception based on city engineer and council approval?
Well, that was my second piece, but I didn't want to include it in the same motion because I didn't want I don't want two things in one motion.
All right, okay.
That makes sense. Because some people may not agree with what I'm saying there, or may not agree with this one, I don't know.
So at this time, we're talking about amending that table, both of those places, from 32 to 36 and 54 to 58, back to the original proposal from our city engineer and staff. Okay, any other discussion on that? All those in favor say yes?
Yes.
And opposed, no? So we'll make that change to the proposed bill to be voted on still, and that's still under discussion. So you had something else, Mike?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that, on the same table, that we put, like, I guess item 4 down here, because we have 1, 2, 3, like 4, that two-way both-sided parking is preferred, and any deviations need to come to the council with explanation of why. And one of the reasons that came up in the planning and zoning, you might be building a retirement community where there's not going to be as much, not as many vehicles there, and so you might not need the on-street parking as much as you do in normal neighborhoods. That doesn't even sound good, but that's the reason for the thought there. But my preference would be have the good streets there so people can get in and out, and our emergency vehicles can get down, because, as I said earlier, Clevewood has, it was never intended to be what it's used for now. And it's a fairly good sized street, but I don't know. I haven't measured, I don't know. So that's my motion. A lot of words, I'm sorry.
No, I think we get it, Mike.
Can you repeat the exact motion?
Okay, my motion
You
is
want me
to
to
add.
just, I have it right?
You got it.
Okay,
I
go
got it.
ahead, Madam
Okay,
Clerk.
so the motion is to add two-way both, section 4. Two-way both side street parking is preferred. Any deviations must come before the council for prior authorization.
Yeah.
And I will say, Scott, do you have any immediate concerns about that? Is that?
No concerns. I would say that there is language in there that says that a developer can request a variance from any of these subdivision regulations, but
Sure.
the said variance needs to have approval from council. So if the variance gets turned down, they may have to go back to the drawing board and adjust those street widths. So, but I think that, letting the developer and the public know that there will be debate on this right-of-way width, I think that's valid to add to this, so.
Okay, thanks.
One
Kyle,
question
again.
of clarification, either for Scott or for Kyle. Does the word preferred mean anything other than what we assume it means? I mean, is there teeth behind the word preferred when it's in this type of language? Or is it just preferred? I just want to make sure we're not going to put a word in there that actually means something different.
Maybe it should be requested instead of preferred.
I mean,
Or
if your city attorney is
recommended.
here, you would probably say, the word word may means that you can do that, or if it says shall or must, then you have to do it this way.
And that was going to be my next point is, we would obviously have, Mr. Riley take a look at this, but preferred is a bit subjective.
Okay.
Your preference is not the same as mine.
Right.
And so maybe required makes
Or
more sense, because you've then stated after that any deviations have to come to the council. We have the variance process. So required, I think, makes more sense.
Okay.
I like the word preferred.
I do
I
too.
just wanted to make sure it didn't mean something different to the three of them than what it means to me. But I prefer the word preferred in this motion.
Be a good lawyer.
Well said.
I am looking for a new career, Mr. Mayor.
I wasn't going to say it, man. I was not going to say that.
So let's let the city councilor look at it and see if,
And did I
Do you
have a
need
second on that motion?
I'll second
Okay.
that.
I think Jeff did, I don't know.
So this motion is to add a fourth line to section N, table A.
You mean repeat it again?
Yeah, go,
Okay.
try to.
All right, so we're adding
prefer you
item
to do
4, two-way both side street parking is preferred. Any deviation must come before the city council for prior authorization.
Well said. Better than I said it, probably.
So that's the motion. If we pass that motion, we would get that vetted by our legal, and they bring a variance of that back. But
Yeah.
the intent would be to add that language in. Is that fair to say?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Any discussion on that? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
And opposed, no.
All right, thank you all.
All right, and then we have the original, which is to move it to second reading at the next council meeting, now as amended.
Yeah,
So we need to vote on that.
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
And I know a lot of work went into this. We appreciate it. Dennis, Scott, you guys.
Yeah.
And our board, the folks that volunteer their time, we value that. And
Right.
it's not that we don't appreciate or want to take their advice on everything, but there's just some things that,
Yeah.
the council has to be okay with, and that street width is a big, big deal, so. All right, any other discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
And opposed, no. That will pass on for our next reading. Thank you all.
Thanks for your work on this, Scott, and coming out tonight.
Okay, did not get to Mary here to present bill number 1654. Mr. Stone, would you mind presenting that for us?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Bill number 1654, an ordinance repealing section 120-11 zoning classification upon annexation, Fulton City Code, enacting a new section in lieu thereof and establishing an effective date. I make a motion to place bill number 1654 for second reading at the next scheduled council meeting.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. And again, this is something that the state statute pretty much tells us what we can and can't do here. It's just not been a part of our city code. We're adding that to our city code. Is that right?
Yes, the chapter, that section that we did have was not compliant with state statute. So Scott drafted this copy you guys received in your packet. Tom Riley looked over it, and we can't really change a lot. We have to follow state statute on the annexation property into the city, and then go through the zoning process. If our county had zoning, then we could bring it in with the designation it had in the county, and then go through the rezoning process. Since our county does not have zoning, we have to bring it in without a zoning designation and then go through our zoning process.
And
Since we
historically,
don't have authority over that piece of property to zone it until we bring it in.
yeah.
Thank you.
But historically, we brought it in as agricultural, A1,
Yes.
or is it just A? I don't,
It was A1.
okay.
And then I think 60 days or 60 days to, or 6 months to designate a zoning for it.
So that's what it's been forever, so as far as I know, it's what we've been doing. And my only concern is somebody won't annex because of this, is then they'll think, well, I'm annexing, I don't know what I'm gonna get once I get there. You know, that's the risk they're taking, I guess. But we don't have a lot of people busting down our doors annexing anyway, but.
I think the important thing to remember, though, is just that this is state statute. This is the process that all other cities also are held to.
Yeah.
And I think typically, this is a fair statement, typically whatever someone requests as a zoning change or a proposal, the P&Z is pretty receptive to that, and this council is really receptive to that. So I feel Dennis vets a lot of that in his conversations with these property owners. I don't see that changing. So I don't know that it will really be an issue.
Yeah. Probably not. It's just something.
Yeah, it's common sense would tell you that that's probably not going to be an issue. I can't think of any case where it would be, but
We hope it is.
we hope we have the opportunity to
Yes.
discuss it anyways, yeah. So, yeah, we need to just follow what the state's mandating here and make that change. Is there any other discussion on this? Any questions on it? All right, I'll call for the question. All those in favor say yes.
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 And opposed, no. That'll pass on to second reading at our next meeting. Next up, we have our second reads tonight. Councilwoman Nelson, if you would present 1647.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Bill number 1647, an ordinance vacating a recorded public street right-of-way in the city of Fulton, Missouri, and establishing an effective date. I make a motion we do third reading of bill number 1647 at tonight's council meeting.
Second?
We have a motion and a second, and heard about this at our last meeting. Is there any more comments, concerns? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
And opposed, no. All right, and last up tonight, Councilman Combs, if you present.
I'm sorry, hold on just one second. So we need to do third reading tonight.
Oh, tonight, yeah, I'm sorry. I
And I would
just totally
ask-
ignored what you said. I'm ready to get out of here. If you would again, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Bill number 1647, an ordinance vacating a recorded public street right-of-way in the city of Fulton, Missouri, and establishing an effective date. I make a motion, we pass bill number 1647 at tonight's council meeting.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this? Okay, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
And opposed, no. You've all heard the bill read 3 times. At this time, Madam Clerk, can you take roll call for final vote?
All right, Mr. Luther?
Yes.
Ms. Nelson?
Yes.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. West?
Yes.
Mr. Combs?
Yes.
5 affirmative and 3 absent.
All righty. And last up, Councilman Combs.
Yes, sir. Bill number 1649, an ordinance authorizing the mayor on behalf of the city of Fulton, Missouri to execute all necessary documents in relation to the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission Transportation Alternatives Program agreement regarding federal project number TAP 2700511 and establishing an effective date. I make a motion to place bill number 1649 for third and final reading at this council meeting.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. And again, we heard about this at our last meeting. It was about our new, well, what will be our new lights, safety measures taken at our school crossings. Any other discussion on that? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
And opposed, no. And if you would again.
All right. Bill number 1649, ordinance authorizing the mayor on behalf of the city of Fulton, Missouri to execute all necessary documents in relation to the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission Transportation Alternatives Program agreement regarding federal project number TAP-2700511 and establishing an effective date. I make a motion to place bill number 1649 for final passage at this meeting.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
And opposed, no. You've all heard the bill read 3 times. At this time, Madam Clerk, if you would take roll call for final vote.
All right, Ms. Nelson?
Yes.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. West?
Yes.
Mr. Combs?
Yes.
Mr. Luther?
Yes.
5 affirmative and 3 absent.
All right, that'll pass. Thank you all. Thanks for presenting that, Councilman Combs. Tonight, our announcements, if you would, City Clerk, please.
Sure. Gayla Dunn will retire on September 27th from the City of Fulton Finance Department after 21 years of service. Fall cleanup week will take place October 10th through the 14th along regular pickup routes. No construction debris or tire will be accepted. Contact the Solid Waste Department with any questions at 573-592-3176. And the next City Council meeting will be held on Tuesday, October 11th, 2022. A work session will commence at 6:30 p.m. with regular session to follow at 7.
And we do not have a need for exec session tonight.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say